Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream and welcome to another chapter. Another chapter working on that guy right there. That is our 1/16 scale Dukes of Hazzard General Lee by MPC. And then that rhymes. And yeah, anyway, let's run the intro and we'll see what's up next. Okay, what's up next, guys? We're back. Well, I think today we're going to do some body work. It's time to tackle those ugly looking fender wheel wells on the front of this thing. They've cut out the front wheel wells like NASCAR would, and they look like that, and that's what the kit looks like, but that's not 69 Dodge Charger wheel wells. And so that's been something that right from the get-go, as soon as I discovered that in this kit, I was like, am I going to do it? Am I going to change it? Am I going to tackle the whole thing about trying to do the body work on this thing? I wasn't quite sure. It was like, well, can I live with it? Should I at least try? And I decided to, well, I'm at least going to try. And you guys you've seen, I've given you hints of it as we've gone along, of me putting putty on the wheel wells and getting that stuff all done. Using a mixture of the Tamiya's polyester putty, this stuff here. I like this stuff. I've seen A4 Garage use it a lot, and it looks like what I've discovered, if I compare, like I've got different putties. I've got Tamiya, just regular basic Tamiya putty. This is the gray stuff. It dries really quickly, but I've used this stuff in the past, and I find it it doesn't sculpt very nicely. Let's put it that way. It doesn't sculpt nicely. And although it dries fairly quickly, like almost starts to dry right out of the tube, it's messy because it starts to dry right away. You can't really smooth it out and everything. And I know, like, you look at, you get guys like Night Shift, Uncle Night Shift. He likes to use this stuff to make his armor on his armor models. He mixes it with a little bit of Mr. Hobby thin glue and mixes that up, and he does that. It seems to work for him. Other than that, I've got my Vallejo plastic putty. This stuff is water-based, and so it takes a little bit longer to dry, and it shrinks a little bit when it dries too. But it remains very soft, and it doesn't really harden that hard. And so when you try and, like, say, take some aggressive sandpaper down on it to try and sculpt it, it kind of just pulls it right out. And so this is great for filling little gaps in panel lines and stuff like that, where you want that to remain a little bit of a thing, but to like fill holes or something like that, or sculpt a fender, no, not really the best choice. And so that's why I went with the Tamiya polyester putty. This stuff is actually, I find, hard to find online, at least up here in Canada. Local hobby stores don't seem to carry it. Online hobby stores don't seem to really carry it. I wound up buying it on eBay. Actually, this is my first one I got. I got this maybe about 2 years ago, and I think I got this on like Amazon Japan, Japan's website, I think. And I don't even remember. It's a couple of years ago. Yeah, I just recently, because I'm getting low on my hardener for this stuff, because this is a two-part stuff. It comes with a little tiny, I'll bring it out here and I'll show you. So you get two tubes in one box. One big tube, this one's come out of here. You get one tube like this, and then on this end, you get a little tube like this. So you get two. And they show you here, polyester putty and the hardener. They don't, because it's all in Japanese, you just kind of have to guess. You want to make it the color of the lid. So this stuff is kind of almost a white color, and this is a very, well, it's basically the color of the bottle. And so you put enough of the hardener on it so that it winds up becoming the color of the lid. And so yeah, so that's how that goes, and this stuff works pretty good. So I do recommend it if you want to do this stuff. It works. I've I like it. I like it. Okay, so what am I talking about? Fenders and wheel wells and stuff like that. Well, this is what we got going on here. I'll change the camera so you're not just staring at my face and you get to see what I'm doing here. So, as you can tell, I've done a lot of putty filling, and you can see I'm on the inner one here. That's a lot of putty I've put in there to fill that wheel well. Now, the reason why I didn't bother like maybe putting some styrene in there and gluing it was because I want to maintain the that curvature of the fender, and the putty, literally putting masking tape on there and putting putty in there helped me to keep that curve. So I've got it. I looked at some pictures of Dodge Chargers online, and it looks like the top of our wheel well on our rear is the same height all the way along on the front, which is why I've got masking tape on here to help me draw out the curvature of our wheel to match this. So to match this, what I did is I took a piece of some nice super thin styrene, I placed it on here, and I drew around it. Obviously not that side, it's this side. Drew around it in there, and I cut it out, and so I've got myself a nice little template to make a wheel well. And so I put the body on the chassis so I could get the center of where the wheel is, right? Lined it up here with our wheel, and I marked it on the fender where it's going to sit. So I've got the middle of my wheel well here, and with the car also with it on the chassis, I've marked off the center of the rear onto my little template. So I know with my template, that is the center of the wheel there, okay? And so all I've got to do is transfer this over to here, line this up in the middle there, and I can draw my template for what I need to carve out on this. All right, so that is my next step. So I've got my Sharpie here. I've got my glasses off my face so I can do this. I want to have it relatively straight, and I want it lined up. And we're going to go like this. Just hold that there like that, and do a line. I'll do the front here first. Why not? Sure, we got that lined up. Curve there. Okay, and now for our rear. This becomes a little more difficult because I got to hold it with two hands. Let's turn this around so that I can actually hold it. The nice thing about this being already set up is I can get in there like that. Okay. Follow this curve. And it looks like we're actually going to go back further. This. And we're actually going to get into some plastic here. Same with the front. Just a little bit. Tiny little bit, I think. But there we go. We've got our outline for our wheel well. Just like that. So do the same on this side. See, I marked the lines on both sides of my sheet so that I could get the reverse of it here. So again, line this up like so. Since I'm sitting there like this, I might as well do the back first. Just going to the front. Okay, now I have to turn this around. Lined up on there. Get that to bend with the body. It's the nice thing about using styrene that is so thin so you can bend it. There we go. And then we'll just carry this line down like so. There we go. So there's our templates for our wheel wells. So where's my lid? Where'd the lid for my felt go? I can't see because I don't have my glasses on. I bet I knocked it on the floor and didn't even realize. No, I got it on the back here. That's, you know you're getting old when you do shit like that. Okay, so the question now is, how am I going to cut this putty out? Am I going to use nippers? No way. Am I going to use an X-Acto knife? No. How about a Dremel? Yes. How about that? So what am I going to use? I have one of these little rotary bits here. Basically 40 grit sandpaper, for lack of a better term, on a rotary tool. And that's going to allow me to get in here and carve out this excess putty that I've got without really going too abrasive with any kind of a cutter, right? So let's give this a try, all right? Let's give this a shot. I'm going to lay out some paper towel here because I anticipate this is probably going to get messy. So let's get some paper towel laid down here. See if we can keep my desk at least a little bit clean. Let's see. I'm going to change my glasses because I do need to see up close. And we'll see how this is going to look. I'll turn down the volume for you guys on YouTube so this doesn't get too loud for you. There we go. With a lot of yellow powder on there, I've got my wheel well carved out. And that's looking, if I back that up a little bit, that's looking a lot more like a Dodge Charger wheel well. That looks a lot better. Much, much better. I do need to still kind of get rid of a little bit of this thickness here. So we've got to take care of that a little bit. We've got to make this look like sheet metal, right? It should be thin. Even along this edge here. This edge here is pretty thick. So I should get in there with the Dremel and slim that out too. Make that look more like sheet metal and not like a big honking piece of plastic or something, right? It should be thin. When you're looking at this car from the outside, it should give the appearance of sheet metal. Even though I want to keep a certain thickness for the putty, I want to keep that strong. And even if I wanted to strengthen this a little more, I could take some CA glue and just kind of, you know, paint the CA glue on the inside of this and do that, and that would work too. But we still got some work to do. I'm gonna thin this out a little bit here. I did pretty good here at the top, but I got to do a little bit here on the front and maybe a little bit more at the back here, just a little bit. So continue on with this. Okay. So this side is done. So I'm happy with that. That looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side, and we'll come back when this is done, okay? Come back when this side's done.
Later.
Okay, so we have the passenger side wheel well cut out now too. So now, if I just take my masking tape off of here, you can have a look at our finished result. There we go. So there is our wheel wells, nicely cut out, nicely done. So the only thing I need to do now is I need to sand this a little bit more. So as you might be able to tell, I've got a lot of dust on me. So I'm going to get cleaned up a little bit, and then we'll come back in a little bit, okay? So yeah, let's get a little cleaned up here first, and then we'll continue on.
1 hour later.
Okay, we're back, and yeah, we have our wheel wells carved out to the shape they're supposed to be carved out. Yes, looks much better, but I'm not done. I'm not done. So I've got some sandpaper on a sanding block here. I believe this is 320 grit. I want to just kind of go over this a little bit and try and get this smooth, as smooth as I can, right? I want to have this, I want it straight, but also it doesn't matter if it's straight because, well, it's a wheel well. I just want it to, I want to hide the fact that I'm actually covering a hole here. You can see a little line right there where the original one was. I'm going to have to spray paint. I think what I'm going to do is put some primer on this, spray some primer on there, and see how she looks in comparison when it's actually got some paint on it now. And see just how smooth that's going to be. It looks like I got a pretty big step right there, right? That I might just have to take care of. So you can see how it's getting to the high spot and getting into the putty there, taking away that high spot. But I don't really have that problem on the front side. Not so much, maybe a little bit. Let's just flip this around, get some fresh stuff there. The nice thing about using a block is I can make sure that I'm getting a fairly straight, flat sanding surface. Look at that, we're taking it right down to the plastic here. It tells me that just how much of a step there was right there and how thick I had my red putty. That's the red glazing putty by 3M. So I think I'm at a spot, like I could feel that with my thumbnail, but we'll see what that looks like. I'm going to spray some primer over this, and we'll see what that looks like with some primer on it. And we'll go from there. Same with this side too. Spray some primer on there, and we'll see how it looks. Now, one thing that happens is you get all this sanding dust in my seams. I want to just kind of go in there with the back of my knife and just kind of dig that out a little bit, clean these ruts out. Look at that. Look at all that dust that's collected in there. In my door seam. Maybe in a future build, a future General Lee, I might shave the door handles off of it. We'll have clean General Lee door handles. After all, the doors are supposed to be welded shut, right? After all, right? So why do you need door handles if your doors are welded shut? Anyway, so I just did that. So let's put that aside. That there. Let's grab my primer. You guys already know what primer I'm using, right? This good stuff here. Real high quality stuff. You know what it is. Gonna swap places with my bottle here. And I'm just gonna spray it on the fenders there and we'll see how she looks. Gotta shake this stuff up quite a bit actually. Okay, so my fenders are looking a little more white now. So I'm gonna have to let this dry for a day or so. And this is looking pretty good. I can see a little tiny bit of a crack, but I think if I use like a thicker primer, I got a little bit of a dent in there. This looks okay. I just need to cover it more. But yeah. Yeah, the front edge looks pretty good, except for where the felt marker was. But yeah, that doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty good. I think with a thick enough paint, the driver's side's good. Passenger side, we'll see once this dries. We'll have a look at this when it's a bit drier, but I think the passenger side is pretty good too. I might have to fix my little carving out there a little bit. Yeah, but it's not looking bad. It's not looking bad. It looks pretty good. I think with a nice thick coat of primer on here, and then some paint, and I think that's going to look pretty good. I think that'll look pretty good. Okay, I'll deal with working on our rear fenders later on. I got my front fenders looking nice and thin. Those are good looking now. So we're going to put this aside and we're going to focus on something else. So let's put our big can of primer aside. So what else can we do today since that's got to sit there and dry for a long time? Well, we can have a sip of some pop. And that's it. No, I'm kidding. I think, guys, I think it's finally time. I think it's finally time that we install the engine in our car. This is a big moment. You guys saw me put in the inner fender wells. I got that all glued down. That's glued down nice and solid now. And I even touched up a little bit of the flat black paint on the inside of our fender wells, and even along the bottom of our door, bottom of our frame here, I touched up some flat black. And yeah, so I got this all glued in. I did touch up a little bit of flat black along the top here in front of the dashboard, just because when you look at the car at like this kind of an angle with the hood open, you could see that in there. So yeah, but like I said, got a dusty trunk. A lot of dust that putty did. I think it's time to install our 440 Magnum and get that put in there. Now, I did mention before that I was thinking of maybe trying to make up some kind of engine mounts for the front rather than just having the engine kind of sit on the frame without them. So if I just kind of tuck this in and try and get this lined up in here, actually, it's a little bit easier actually to do it with the car upside down. You know, hindsight being 2020, if I had waited before putting the steering arms on, I could just put the engine in from underneath. I could just tuck it up in here and go whoop, and there we go. And I could do that. But because of my steering rack, I can't really do that. I have to go in from the top, even though it's upside down right now and it's the bottom. But that'll help me get this lined up in here. Get my pipes lined up on the exhaust. There we go. And she's in. Okay. So like I've been doing before, I just put a tire under here and kind of rest the car on top of a tire. So let me change the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. We have this here. So on the 440 Magnum, there's mounts here and here at the front of the block, although this one is kind of blocked by um, our oil filter adapter. So the engine mount is right here, okay? And then in that same spot here, which kind of lines up with this frame cross member. But of course, it's way out here. It's almost like I'd have to make my engine mount as some kind of an L bracket, or just a big square block that fits in there. And I haven't really decided yet what I'm going to really do about it, because right now, the way the engine is going to sit, what it's going to sit on, obviously it's going to be held in with our collectors on the exhaust. There is a point of contact where the shifter arm meets the transmission tunnel. Then of course it would be, our drive shaft connecting to our rear end. So we've got glued there and there and there. These are going to be shrink down onto that, holding that there. So that's basically all held at the back, but nothing held at the front, right? And so the engine could potentially do this, unless I find some place to glue it at the front. Now, I could push it down far enough that my oil filter contacts the frame here. Let me move this here. Oil filter is contacting the frame here. My bottom crankshaft pulley is I could push it down and glue it onto the frame. And that would work. That would work, because after all, the fact that it's so low, you're not going to be able to tell anything. It's not going to really do any harm. And so we can get away with that. And that might be a good spot to get glue in under there on the front. And that might work for us, right? That just might work. And then I really don't need to bother with any kind of motor mounts for the motor to sit on. Although that would just be, more realistic, and that would make the motors maybe sit up a quarter of a millimeter or something like that, so the pulley's not actually touching the frame. But it doesn't really matter, right? It's not a working engine. It's just all about illusion and making it look like it's real and functional without it actually being real and functional. You know what I mean? Yes, you do. So, I think it's time. It's time to make that plunge. It's time to take the plunge. So we're going to need a couple of things. I need to have my drive shaft ready, which is sitting over here. Okay. And remember, we got our slip joint or whatever. That's going to the rear. That's going to our diff. So that can go in like this. Let's bring our engine back where she belongs. Let's push her back. Get back. There we go. Okay. She's still not quite in, but close enough. Let's get the engine underneath. There we go. The engine underneath? I mean the wheel. Now I don't want to have my drive shaft sitting like that. She's got to be rotated around like this. Okay. And that's a good spot for it. The drive shaft can sit there. So, but I need CA glue. I need to get it ready. I can't get glue in underneath the transmission there. I think maybe I want to put a mark of where I need to glue it. So I'm going to just kind of put a little bit of a scratch in the paint underneath here, so that I know that's where the transmission is touching. So I need to put glue there. I need to put glue on the frame here. And that's really the only point. And of course, I got to slather some glue on the inside of my transmission housing. Okay. So that is that. So let's move this forward again. Let's get this out. There we go. Whoa, good thing I caught that. I don't want nothing breaking on my engine. Okay. So our drive shaft. Let's put you here for now. We need some CA glue. Yeah, you could just blow off of there. That'd be fine. Gotta see. I think that's the mark I put there, and it's not. see. I'm going to put a piece of tape down so that I know exactly where to put the glue for the transmission, for the shifter. So I know it's going to be right in front of this piece of tape. Yep, right underneath there. That's good. There's my guide. Okay. All right, so it's going to be right in front of that. All right, so get my applicator. Somehow I got a piece of resin in my glue bottle. Let's get that out of here. All right, so we need some glue here. I want to remove the tape as soon as I put the glue down. I know where it's got to go. It's got to go right in this little spot here. It's a little wear spot. Okay, so there's that. And then we're going to put some on our pulley here where it's touching the frame. And my oil filter actually touches the frame, but you can't see that it touches the frame. So I'm going to put some glue on the frame in that little spot where the oil filter seems to like to sit in his home here. Right in there. Okay. Now, inside our transmission. For the drive shaft. So that's another problem. You got to use CA glue with all this resin stuff. Okay, so I've got glue in there. I gotta have my drive shaft ready. Let's get this up in here. Get all up in here. Pipes ready, fit in there. We need this in here. And there we go. Engine's in place. And there we are. There we go. Okay, so our drive shaft can come back just a hair. That. I'd like this to be on that spot. I want to get some accelerator here. So I'm going to have to work quickly, I think, because I want my drive shaft up this. She didn't take. Or did you? I don't know if she took or not. Our transmission did not take. She did not stick down. Our drive shaft is staying, so that's good. But our tranny did not glue in, so I got to reapply. Fortunately, I got this long little needle thing get in there. Still not holding. Why aren't you holding? You're supposed to hold. In the meantime, for the back, I can use regular glue because this is the drive shaft is styrene, the rear end is styrene. So I could put glue on that, just regular old glue, and that'll work for that. Transmission's holding now, so now it's just a matter of the front, which I think we're already holding. I think we're already holding good. And I believe that's that. Engine is installed. Oil filter's just barely touching there on the frames, so let's just give that a little shot, make sure that dries. There we go. So the oil filter's just barely touching the frame there, right? So that is that. So with our engine glued in, that's a big step. That's a big step we just took, guys. So let's close up my glue so that it doesn't do crazy things on me and like tip over with while it's open. So that is good. So the last thing we need to do is I need to heat up my shrink wrap, my heat shrink tubing for my collector pipes. You guys already know that's just rubber heat shrink tubing that's been painted. So we're going to put a little heat on that and see how this goes. And well, that shrunk onto those pipes really nicely, just like that. There you go, guys. Believe it or not, those collector pipes are rubber heat shrink tubing, and they don't look like no heat shrink tubing I ever seen. That looks really cool. I have to admit, that does look cool. And even on camera, it looks pretty good. I am happy with that. I'm happy with that. I'm more happy with the way the underneath this thing looks than anything else. But there's our engine. Our engine's installed. I'm really happy with that. So a couple of things, we've got to do some stuff under the hood. She needs to have her windshield wiper motor installed. She needs to have a radiator installed. So a rad, like I mentioned to you guys before, just barely fits in here, but she does fit. In fact, she don't want to really slide down in there now. She's right up against the fan. So I think maybe my engine is just a hair further forward than I had before. And so this pin is now giving me a headache. Come on out of there. You went in there. Come on out. There we go. So I'm going to trim off these pins. I don't need these locator pins anyway. So these are going to come off. Okay. So in theory, that should help me slide this down in there. There we go. And that's where our rad's going to sit, just like that. So I'm going to pull this back out Come on. She's getting caught on one of the bolts of the fan. There you go. So I'm going to put some glue on this, and then we'll drop it in and get the rad installed. Okay. Again, need CA glue because the rad may be styrene, but this is made of resin. And somehow I got a big drop of glue right here. I don't know how where that came from. Cured CA glue on the top of my rad mount. So she's going to get contact here and here, and then along the top here. So I could do the sides or something. This edge here could use maybe a little bit of, get rid of that little nub, flatten that out, flatten this out. She's just going to sit flush against the wall, so all that stuff doesn't matter. So I could actually put glue here. That's where she's going to sit. And then here. And there and there. Let's just do this. And do that spot there, this side and there. And that ought to be enough to get our rad in there. And glued in spot where she belongs. Just like so. Okay, our rad is in, just like that. There's that view and that view. I don't have her quite centered, but I think I'm limited with the frame in here, so that's good enough, really. Good enough for me. Okay. One thing that's a big deal for me is our little brake booster and master cylinder. And of course the brake lines. And I want to get this in there and have this running down, have our brake lines running down there. I think having them come back to the firewall is going to be a good call. So let's do that. I'm going to move this out of the way for a sec so that I can have my brake booster like this, and I can bend my brake lines in the way that I want them to. This, and then do that, and have them both come like this. So they both go down in the same spot. Like that. And then they'll be hidden down in the frame. Something like that. I think that's pretty good. All right. CA glue on there. Right down, right about here. There we go. Our brake booster is installed. Yeah, thanks for the bot. Thanks, bot. Get the fuck out of my stream. I'm not going to play around with my brake lines just yet. I'm going to let that dry, let that cure, get that all cured in there. I do have to do my little windshield wiper motor. That's got to be put in there too. But this guy, originally, when I first tried to glue this in there, I put it in the middle where it's really supposed to be, but my carburetors are too far back and I couldn't do it. So I have to put this in kind of an incorrect spot and put it like right here. But I want to get this painted first. This is just primer, and I got to get that painted up first before I put that in. So I think this is probably where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. I want to let this all dry and be nice and cured and stuff before I really start playing around with anything else in it. The engine installation was a big step, right? It's always a big thing to get the engine installed. Although, you know, most car kits. So thanks for the stupid blur. Thanks for the blurry camera.
Eventually.
There we go. There. Okay, so the engine, of course, is getting it installed is a big step for me. Of course, most model kits, you're building the engine first. You're just not installing it right away. So you have this engine sitting aside while you do other stuff. And really, that's kind of what I've been doing this whole time is I built the engine kind of first. Well, technically, I 3D printed the engine and assembled it. But yeah, it's I'm glad it's in there. We've got our brake booster in there. This car's got brakes now. And yeah, I'm going to have to custom fabricate a little rad hose to go from the engine over to the radiator. I might try tackling the lower rad hose. I don't know. The lower rad hose is always a really difficult one for me. And it's also a detail that I'm not really going to see very much. So might not bother with it. Yeah. Anyway, as you guys may have noticed at the beginning of this episode, I got some weird looking little things here in my hand. These are like really old school ratchet jacks. I noticed in one picture online of the trunk on a 69 Charger, the guy had the spare tire in the back and one of these old jacks. And so I thought I'd print one out, print a few out in different sizes to see what would be accurate for this car. This is the size I determined was probably going to be the most accurate to size in actually what you would use to jack up a car of this scale. But this is definitely too big to fit in our little trunk right there, especially if I'm actually going to have the spare tire in here as well. If I put the spare tire in the back, there's really not a lot of room for the fuel tube that goes from the fuel filler valve at the top down into where the gas tank is. In the back of these cars, you got a great big tube that goes down like this in the back there, which I kind of have mocked up a little bit of a little piece of tubing here to put here. So it's going to go right there and go up to that. But if I do that, then fitting my tire in on there, the tire's going to have to go over to the side like that. And then where's my jack going to go? Right? My jack's going to just kind of lie there somewhere like this or something, or underneath the tire, maybe like this, and just lie there. I really don't know. Maybe the tire could be put up on an angle. I can't really go up on an angle like this because of our wall here. If I didn't have the wall, if I didn't have this back wall here, if I didn't have that, I could put the tire a lot further back. You know, I could go all the way to the back seat. And that's probably the way it is in the real car. But, you know, the real car's probably got quite a bit of room back here. But I don't. I don't. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I just put the tube in there and not even put my spare tire in. Or maybe I put the spare tire and just leave it like that off to the side. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It's one of those things. It's one of those things that, I mull it over in my head and I look at these options and then I wind up not doing it. I do that a lot. Anyway, guys, this is where we're going to leave it today. That's going to be it for now. I got to let my primer dry on my body. I need to let this sit for a little bit before I can play around with it. I want to let that CA glue really, really cure and harden up good so that it doesn't just break apart when I start playing with stuff, right? So anyway, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for following me. I want to thank you for joining me on this long journey with this car. If you have watched this the whole way through, I really appreciate it. You are awesome. Thank you so much. I know that most of you guys who watch my channel, you just kind of click through the videos and it makes me have an average watch time of about 2 minutes out of a 1 hour video. And that screws with my algorithms, okay? It really does. So I'd appreciate it if you just hit play and just, go about your day. That would be really awesome. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you again. Don't forget, down in the description box, there's links to my other things like my Twitch and my Instagram. Follow me on those if you feel like it. On my Instagram in particular, I always upload pictures of stuff that I've built. And I'm trying lately to get more into the process of taking pictures of the process of as we go along and upload those too, particularly on my X channel. Trying to get into the habit of doing that. It's not something I'm used to, so I keep forgetting to do it. So I apologize for that. But guys, thank you again for your support. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. I'd really appreciate that. And we'll see you all in the next one.